We talk about God as though he's some faraway being that doesn't care about us, as though it doesn't matter and that his holiness doesn't matter and his majesty doesn't matter and his purity doesn't matter. We've cast aside his commandments in our day, and so, he's God, he'll deal with it. Yes, he will. In fury he shall render to his adversaries. Don't you want to become part of the bride instead? For he comes to redeem his bride. The song is about the majesty and the purity of our God. Sets the majesty on high, far above all principalities, powers in earth the earth has ever seen. Sets the majesty on high, the one the crowds cry crucify, is now crowned king of all eternity. Sets the majesty on high, the ones the crowd did cry crucify, is now crowned Lord forever and ever. Sits the majesty on high, full of grace and mercy, but a God foremost of purity. Sets the majesty on high, so pure and undefiled, no sin may enter into his presence. Sits the majesty on high, how do you and I stand a chance of being with the King of all eternity? Full of grace and mercy, but a God of great purity, sets the majesty on high. His name is Jesus Christ of Nazareth, crowned King for all eternity. Sets the majesty on high. How do you and I stand a chance of being with this pure King, free from sin? Sets the majesty on high. Won't we accept his offer and invite him in? He wants to come into your soul and your spirit and make you whole. Sets his majesty on high. I dwell in high and lofty places, in him with the lowly spirit and a contrite heart, says the Lord. Sets the majesty on high, full of purity and holiness that we've never experienced. Sets the majesty on high, the only way in is through the cross, where sacrifice was made. Sets the majesty on high, full of purity and holiness, night and day. Flee from the brilliance of his glory that transcends all of time and eternity. Sets the majesty on high, we better pay attention, for soon we will cease from contention. Sets the majesty on high, come and let him in, until he tell you depart from sin. Sets the majesty on high. Why don't we invite him in, or soon we'll hear him cry, I never knew you, though I wanted to you. Depart from me, ye worker of iniquity. Sets the majesty on high, too pure to be with sin, but came to dwell among you and me. Sets the majesty on high, full of majesty and awe, full of grace and purity. Sets the majesty on high, won't we let him in, so he can truly Save us from our sin. Sets the Majesty on high.